Hi, this is Sam Harris. I'm an author and neuroscientist, and I'm doing my second episode of Ask Me Anything, where I go to readers and visitors to my blog and solicit questions. And last time I did it with Reddit. Now I'm doing it with Facebook and Twitter. And I got literally hundreds, if not something like 1,000 questions coming in by email mostly. So I really can only touch the tip of the iceberg. But I've culled these questions and consolidated them, and I'm going to jump right in, and I'm not naming names, so your anonymity is protected. First question: if there is no heaven and hell, isn't life pointless? How could it possibly matter in the scheme of things if we treat one another morally or deepen our scientific understanding of the universe? We're all going to die. So doesn't atheism, by definition, rob life of its meaning? This is an odd question that I get almost always from religious people. This is I consider this a kind of software glitch of the human mind. It's not a question that resonates with me, and I want to try to unpack why I think it's so strange. The subtext of this question, and even rather often the text, is that unless experience lasts forever, there's no point. It means nothing. So just try to map this onto your life. Every good meal you've had, every pleasant experience as opposed to an unpleasant one, every relationship, none of it means anything because it ends. A good movie is meaningless. It's no better than a bad movie because it ends. This is a strange idea. This is unless we disappear into infinity with experience, there's no difference between the most sublime happiness and the most abject suffering. And I think when you actually try to connect with that intuition, it's strange and really is insupportable in our moment-to-moment experience. We care very deeply about the character of our experience. In fact, it's the only thing we can care about. And I think quite to the contrary, this notion of eternity, this notion of nothing matters here, but it matters in over the long haul, in the afterlife, because the bulk of our experience is after we die. This religious idea actually robs life of its meaning. It doesn't bring meaning to life. It renders meaningless all of the precious moments we have while alive. I mean, this is the only life we're certain of, and it's continually ending. It not only ends in death, but it ends in each moment, and things change. And that makes each moment precious. So when you take an experience like, if you're a new parent and you're carrying your child, say, what you do, you pick your child up hundreds of times a day, it seems, and you never think that there's going to be a last time you do that. I mean, at a certain point, your child's going to get too heavy to pick up. You don't pick up 15-year-olds for the most part. At a certain point, you will have picked your child up for the last time. Now, we tend not to go through life thinking in those terms, but if we realized that it's as though we're standing in front of a kind of a ticket machine at a deli counter, and we're just pulling tickets, not knowing how many are in there, and at a certain point, you pull, and you've got the last one in hand for every experience. There'll be a last time you pick your child up, and you will not have noticed that was the last time. That makes life very precious, and certainly death, the final ticket at the end of life, makes it all incredibly precious. It's just it could not be more precious, and its preciousness is not predicated on it lasting forever, as though such a thing could even make sense. So this is another mode in which religion convinces us not to take death seriously, and that's actually its selling point. We don't have to take death seriously because we live for eternity after we die. Needless to say, there's no evidence for that, but it's I think psychologically and socially unhelpful to do that because it offers no incentive to make this life as creative and as beautiful and as rich as we can possibly make it. We've got many questions on free will. There's an immense amount of interest in a few blog posts I did on free will. Please discuss your views on free will. You've said that it is an illusion, but that choices, intentions, and efforts still matter. But what can words like choice, intention, and effort mean if there's no such thing as free will? Now, there's been so much interest in this. I think I'll probably write a short ebook on it and just pull together my blog posts and sort of go more a little deeply into this, because I didn't know this, but this is actually just an issue that really matters to people, apparently, psychologically. Most people, most of the time, feel very clearly that they are the authors of their own actions, that they are the thinkers of their thoughts and the intenders of their intentions. And as a result, from this point of view of being a self that can choose experiences, they think that something very important about their experience would be lost or falsified if, in fact, we determined scientifically or philosophically that there's no such thing as free will. Well, the problem is free will is just a non-starter philosophically and scientifically. Unlike many other illusions, there's no way you can describe the universe so as to make sense of this notion of free will. Now, there are many people who kind of artfully change the subject and try to get a version of free will that still makes some scientific sense. It actually is not what people mean by free will. What people mean is that their conscious selves are free to choose their actions. You choose what you want, you choose what you will to do, and this is true in the simplest way with gross motor actions, but it's true in your life course, the kinds of things that interest you, etc. Now, people don't deny that they're influenced by their genes and the environment and the social systems they live in, but they still feel that at every moment there is freedom to choose. Now, what can this mean? From the position of conscious awareness of your inner life, this can't be true, because everything you're consciously aware of in every moment is the result of causes of which you are not aware and over which you exert no conscious control. So, it's a simple experiment. You think of someone in your life. Just remember someone you know. Now, the person who comes to mind feels like someone you chose. You just took this person off the shelf of memory, in a sense. But you can't account for why you thought of that person as opposed to somebody else. Okay, let's say you know 100 people in this world. Before I posed the question, you weren't thinking of anybody. I ask you to think of someone you know, and somebody emerges into conscious awareness. We know, as a matter of neurophysiology, that was manufactured by the brain at the end of a series of causes of which you are not conscious, of which you are the mere witness. You are merely receiving that memory of a person. And so it is with every other choice you would make in life. To choose to move your right hand as opposed to your left hand, as long as you want to deliberate about that, you could deliberate for an hour. But the final impulse that's effective, if I go back and forth between my two hands and then finally say, oh, it's going to be my right, I'm in no position to say why it wasn't my left. And we know, and there have been a variety of neurophysiological experiments and now neuroimaging experiments attesting to this, we know that monitoring brain function would have allowed scientists in the lab to predict which hand I was going to move seconds before I'm consciously aware of my motor plan. So this is a problem for this folk psychological notion of free will, this idea that we are the authors in every moment of our inner lives and of what we subsequently do in the world, because we know that we are downstream of causes of which we're not conscious and cannot possibly be conscious. Now, some people want to say, well, okay, so there's this stream of neurophysiological events that are begetting thoughts and intentions and emotions, but we are in a position to change subsequent events. Okay, well, that's actually not true. The we that's in a position to change those subsequent events is simply more events. I mean, there's just one event following another as a matter of neurophysiology. So the the idea that I can decide, I can't pick my impulse to move my right hand versus my left hand, but I can decide to stop moving it. That decision to stop is also something that is arising based on prior causes. So however you look at this, you have to admit that the contents of consciousness are born of an unconscious mental life, which is almost certainly at bottom a matter of neurophysiology in our case. Now, there are many subsequent questions that follow on this concern about free will. So if, in fact, we can't choose what we choose, but simply choose, how can choice be important? I mean, well, so then why not just sit back and wait and see what happens? Why choose to do anything? Why get out of bed in the morning? Well, to choose to do nothing is itself a choice. It's in fact actually a very hard thing to do. I mean, you just sit there and wait to see what happens, and you're going to get impatient, you're going to get restless, you're going to want to eat something, you're going to be moved by impulses, which you'll then have to choose to resist in order to sit and just wait and see what happens. So you can't step out of the stream of being lived by your unconscious mental processes, which are showing up as conscious intentions, emotions, moods, desires, etc. The notion that choice is important can be conserved, however, because choice is what, at the level of our conscious life, choice is what precedes some of the biggest changes in our experience. I mean, to choose to marry one person as opposed to another, or to choose to have a child, or to choose to go to college, or to drop out of college. I mean, these are behaviors that are preceded by thoughts and conversations and a lot of effort, mental effort, and weighing of pros and cons. All of this actually does precipitate the next moment of experience and the next and what in fact we choose to do. And yet all of it is being born of processes of which we are not consciously aware. So one question that comes up that is related here is a worry that if we were rigorously honest about free will being an illusion, maybe we would lose something in terms of being motivated to change ourselves, to improve ourselves. We wouldn't value effort in quite the way we need to in order to live the best lives possible. This might be true. It might be that there's a way to talk about effort and pulling yourself up by your bootstraps and commitment to a goal, etc., which more or less ignores the unconscious underpinnings of our inner lives and gives people the illusion that they really are the authors, the real authors of their thoughts and actions. That's fine. That is a pedagogical question, a pragmatic question, and in any given instance, it is true that it has an effect to think about yourself in terms of being capable of great effort and being the real author of your actions. So you get up in the morning, and rather than think, well, I just have the genes I have the environment I had the parents I have, I'm a mere recipient of all these causes, I really can't be any different or better than I am, so I'm just going to see what happens. That isn't necessarily the message you need to take from this no free will argument. You can also acknowledge that giving yourself a pep talk or being given a pep talk by others, thinking in terms of effort and striving and bettering yourself, all of that has an effect. Now, it has an effect which, again, is part of this mere stream of neurophysiological influences about which, in every instant, we are not consciously aware. But it doesn't negate the fact that it does have an effect. And talking in terms of choices and efforts and commitment to goals has a great utility and is not merely illusory. It's, to be given a pep talk that works is to be moved in a way that then has consequences in your life. But again, to pay close attention in any given moment, you are not in a position to know why it works in one moment as opposed to another, or the genetic and environmental influences that explain why you are precisely you as you are in that moment.